Who's the guy that's The Natural? Maybe I don't know. It's a baseball movie. I don't pay attention to those movies. There's no crying in baseball.
It's going to be if we mix up any more of our movies tonight.
G'day, welcome to episode 35 of Spotcast. My name is Tim Mitchell, and I'm in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined once again by Jonathan Kuline over in Mississauga, Ontario.
How's it going, eh?
And Jaime Lopez over in Seattle, Washington has no idea what we're doing.
How's it going? And I don't, other than in a different channel, I'd mentioned that somebody had yet another person. This happens on, not a regular basis, but more of an occasional recurring basis, that somebody will believe that I'm Canadian and ask me if I am. I always have to tell them, I have been communicating diligently with Canadians for several years now, so I probably have picked up a little bit of the accent.
Yeah, did you do the Duolingo course on Canadian or something?
I saw a story online today that there's a petition online to sell Montana to Canada.
Really?
Have you guys seen this one?
No.
So there's a story online that somebody, in jest, suggested that America sell Montana to Canada for $1 trillion to try and lower the U.S. economic deficit. And it's got 12,000 signatures online with a bunch of people saying, yeah, this would be great. We get more hockey rinks and better healthcare. So
that's funny.
I was thinking, maybe Jaime, you should start one for Washington State.
Yeah, they give you vaccines, right?
Yeah. Sadly, we do need those. Vaccines from Vancouver down to the other Vancouver. Vaccines for all.
The joke's on you guys is we don't have that kind of money to buy the place. But do you know who David Brenner is, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I told you years and years ago that I was watching him. I think he was on Mike Douglas, and he said that, Canada should sell should sell ourselves to the United States, and then for $1 billion or something like that, right? And then we'd all be millionaires living in the United States.
Yeah.
Just evenly distribute that amongst 30 million people.
That's it.
Yeah,
There's only 36 million of us. We'll take $1 million a pop.
Yeah, that was a great idea. All righty, let's look at the fact check, shall we? Jonathan,
yes, indeed. Well, this a fact check from episode 34. So 2027, our good friend Jaime was trying to remember the dates when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is set to open at Disneyland and Disney World, and he was absolutely correct. Galaxy's Edge is opening at Disneyland in summer 2019 and opening in Disney World in late fall 2019. So good job, buddy.
So how's that a fact check then?
Well, he was saying in the episode, I'm not sure, we'll have to fact check that one. So I went to the internet and made sure that we were right. So for those people who weren't sure that we were right, we were right.
All right.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
2225, I mentioned that the Terminator was 1983. It was actually 1984. 4405, we were talking about the Star Trek Discovery's sister ship on Discovery, and we thought it was the Grissom, but it was actually the Glenn, USS Glenn.
Is that the one with the distorted people that they found?
That was the one from episode 3 or 4 of the first season where the people got smooshed, and it was the other one with the spore drive. And yes,
so, okay,
presumably named after John Glenn, but that was the ship that they scuttled and fired a couple torpedoes into to get rid of. 11452, the actress who played Judith, John Cryer's character's wife on 2.5 Men, and is now starring on the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, is Maren Hinkle. Her name, Maren Hinkle. And Tim, you had one more piece of fact check for us?
Yeah, I was talking about the TV show Cardinal, which is in its 3rd season on CTV. I don't know if it's an American. I think it's a Canadian show. I don't know if it's shown in the States. But Billy Campbell is the actor I was trying to remember the name of. And I saw him on Helix. I don't know if you saw the sci-fi show Helix a couple of years ago. But he was also the Rocketeer, turns out.
Oh, yeah, Billy Campbell.
And I think they said he auditioned for Han Solo. Sorry, Tammy. Han Solo. Yeah. So, from back in the day. Who knows? Who knew? So, and then Karine Vanessa. Here we go. I should get Jaime to pronounce this name. Karine Vanessa is the French-Canadian actress who plays his partner on the show. It takes place they mention Algonquin Park from time to time. So it's sort of like the Algonquin police. It's sort of north of the north end of Ontario, I think, right? It's where this fictitious show takes place.
It's like a procedural, like a cop show?
Yeah, it started out with he's sort of a, this is a brand new trope. It's like, a cop with a questionable past and, has some, issues that he's struggling with. And,
that's never been done before. That's genius.
Never been done before. I know, it's totally new. And, so he ends up in this northern town and he's investigating death of an Aboriginal woman, or sorry, a Native Canadian woman. Indigenous Canadian woman. Native Canadian, isn't it?
No, Indigenous is the preferred term in Canada now.
Okay, investigating the death of an Indigenous woman at a casino. And, it turns out she's Ensign Rowe. Who plays Ensign Rowe?
Michelle Forbes?
Michelle Forbes is her mother, who's, like a tough as nails character, and the husband. And, so there's some question of what goes on in the family and why this girl was up at the casino. I guess she wasn't Indigenous. She must have been one of the local girls who was working at the casino, I guess. Anywho, and it turns out to be this big long, or am I thinking, no, wait, I'm getting that mixed up with The Killing.
Take two.
Yeah, I think, it's very much like The Killing. No, I think he investigates some sort of serial murder or something like that, and it goes on through the whole thing, and of course he's got his separated from his wife, and sort of there's that whole angst about what's going on with his wife and his daughters, living in the city down in Toronto, and she comes up, and so it's an interesting story. Long, the arc runs over the whole series, sort of thing. And it's I don't know, I like the theme song, and it's good little. I swore off cop dramas, and yet here I am watching Luther and Cardinal. It's very strange. And now I'm watching The Rookie too, which stars Captain Reynolds, right?
Nathan Fillion, yes, indeed, another proud Canadian boy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now let's get into the headlines. Take it away, Jaime.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little confused when he said The Rookie, and I said the one about the baseball kid who breaks his arm and becomes a major league pitcher.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's Rookie of the Year. Actually, I have to look that up.
Well, I think that is called The Rookie with Keach, Stacy Keach. Is that right? No, not Stacy Keach.
What's his name? Albert Brooks. Isn't Albert Brooks in the Rookie?
No, he's a comedian, right?
Yeah.
No, who's the guy that's The Natural? Maybe I don't know. It's a baseball movie. I don't pay attention to those movies. There's no crying in baseball.
It's going to be if we mix up any more of our movies tonight.
All right. Anyway, on to the headlines.
Yeah, in this case, there's really good news for CBS because their head honcho, the chief, has said that All Access has hit the 4 million subscriber goal early.
Woo-hoo!
People are saying
it's free from now on
because it's funny you should say some of that stuff because the context is they have 8 million subscribers combined between Showtime and CBS All Access, and they said it's roughly 50-50. So just split it exactly to make it easy math. Roughly 4 million subscribers for CBS All Access. So for folks like me in the United States, and this is the only way, the only legal way by which we can obtain Star Trek Discovery. And I think that's a pretty big success for them, right? Like if you just focus on CBS All Access, they took their premium property they had, the one property they had. Yes, there are some other things available now, like kind of more minor things, I think, not the kind that people say, holy smokes, I have to pay $5.99 a month to watch that. So I'd say the vast majority, call it 75% is, Discovery related, which would make it, 3-ish million people doing that. So that's good for them in terms of longevity and having bucks. And talking of bucks, they're like, hey, you know what? We really like this deal we have with Netflix to pay for all of this stuff so we can distribute it to other countries. And then on top of that, they said, maybe it's not such a bad idea to have previous seasons of our CBS All Access content be available for free on the main broadcast network, CBS.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like, I've seen this already for something. I want to say it's like The Good Wife or The Good Fight. One is
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. One is a spin-off of the other. And so The Good Fight is the more recent one?
I think so, yes.
Okay. So I've seen commercials that say, watch, season 1 of The Good Wife, Good Fight on CBS, presumably because season 2 is about to start or has already started. I'm not clear which because I'm not a watcher of that show, but it kind of makes sense of like, they got to put content somewhere on the network, right? And why not use content you've already paid for as a, we can get we can get advertisers to promote, Huggies and Coca-Cola to people who just have normal over-the-air television. And then maybe some number of those people people like, wow, I love that season. I sure would like to watch the most current season. And then boom, there's their $5.99 a month to go watch CBS All Access.
Sorry, I flagged this too. So this was an interesting story because it raises two questions. One, so does that mean that they would put it in prime time? They never really make that clear where they would put it. Like, are they envisioning like we'll go back and show season 1 of Discovery in primetime airtime, and then hopefully people will like it? The other issue that's raised is one that I think Tim and I are very familiar with, and a lot of Canadian listeners might be familiar with too, which is that the episodes that are made for CBS All Access are longer than would be network runtime. So they would either have to trim them, or they'll have to do what they do here on Space and run them 15 minutes long to get commercials in.
Right.
So that's an interesting sort of question, wrinkle.
Or cut the risky bits out.
Well, I mean, they'd have to cut the F words out because they use the F words in the Discovery on CBS All Access too, right?
Yeah. And there's that Klingon stuff.
There is a little bit of graphic Klingon action in there too, yes, that would have to come out. So it's an interesting, like, it's really cool that they're talking about this because obviously it would get it to a wider audience, and I think it's a reflection of the success that they're seeing. But there's some really interesting logistical questions there too.
I look at it from another point of view. So it's $5.99 times $4 million per month. That's $20 million per month. Is that right?
Yes, I think.
And then you multiply that up by 12, what do you end up with? Like, I mean, what does a show like Star Trek cost to make, and where are they, like, what are we talking about? 20 million times 12 is what? A lot of millions, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
$250 million-ish.
I apologize if we covered it somewhere else, if we had like a more official number, but I could have sworn I heard somebody say, well, it seems like they're roughly covering the production cost of Discovery on the Netflix deal.
Oh, the deal with them, right.
So they just get like a boatload of cash for the rights to distribute that.
And they must be doing well with the Canadian deal too, right? That's a separate deal.
Oh, this to Space, you mean, right? Is that what you said, Jonathan?
Yeah, to Space. It's a separate deal here. Again, we're not a huge market, but they must be getting a few $million off that too.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you would figure that the All Access subscribers are just gravy on top, and I can see why they would say, how can I continue to use this content that's already paid for and make even more money off of it?
I would have thought they did the math on the All Access people, because I mean Netflix, while Netflix seems to be a given thing, Netflix probably has like a Walmart kind of rule where you can do business with us, but you got to chop like this and you got to sell it for that, and they probably, because they have a lot of buying power, because they have bums in the seats, which is what anybody distributing a show wants, right? They probably have the right to say, or the clout to say, we're not going to give you $20 million, we'll give you 15 or something, or 10, to be on our platform. Because I mean, because there have been like they're not doing the shorts to the rest of the world, or they're doing them late now, right? They didn't do them at the time they were made, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't like, they'd probably calculate how they're going to make the best bang for their buck. And initially out of the gate, Star Trek is it's a long shot in a lot of ways. I was actually I've been going to see a physiotherapist recently, and he was telling me that he watched a couple of episodes of Star Trek, Discovery, liked it, but just couldn't get into it, So I'm sure there's a large demographic of people that, might have started watching, like, people on CBS All Access are paying for it, so they're gonna watch it. But for those of us who get it for, and I'm doing air quotes here, free, because we don't really get it for free, but we have the choice not to watch it, right?
Right. And I looked this up just to make sure, because I forgot that there was another tier. So $5.99 is what the cheap people, such as myself, are paying. That's with limited commercials, which that's, commercial dollars, advertising dollars they're getting there. For people who don't want commercials at all, there is a $9.99 a month tier.
That's what I thought it was, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I kind of remembered vaguely that there was something like that. I find the commercials a really good time for me to write notes for this show. So it's kind of a win-win to have.
You mean you don't like us and write notes while you're watching the show?
I tried doing that, and it made viewing the show take way too long.
I see.
When we weren't recording on the same night as the show comes out, it's like, all right, what does it matter if it takes me 2 hours to watch? And it's like, all right, there's a cut, end of a scene, write down what happened. So my notes are a little bit more loosey goosey, and it's like, all right, what was the last 10 to 15 minutes or so of time worth of stuff? So I have shorthand. Spoilers for tonight's episode, but like Saru hulks out is something I just copied and pasted a whole bunch of times in this episode.
Right.
Yeah, I think I said he gets aggro.
Right, yeah.
Roid rage, Saru.
I'm going to save my comments for the commentary, so, yep. All right. Now let's move on to the next story here.
You can spend a minimal amount of time on the Middle-earth map that Amazon has released as its first Lord of the Rings teaser for their Prime Video series that they're working on there. Their equivalent of the Game of Thrones thing that they're trying to do.
But they're retelling the Lord of the Rings?
No, I don't think we have a lot of details, but I thought we saw something else a few months ago that it was going to be from like the Other Tales sort of stuff.
The Saxel Baggins people or something like that?
Probably like Silmarillion stuff and all the maybe unfinished tales and other things that are pre-Lord of the Rings era, I believe. The next one is the Netflix is going to have a Transformers Origins animated series. I guess they're pretty happy about the way that the Bumblebee movie turned out, and they're just going to use that to create their own animated series. Apparently they've got a whole wealth of talent to work on that.
So do you say that because of the success of Bumblebee, or?
I mean, maybe it was already pre-planned as like, all right, if it looks like it's going to do pretty good, let's build on that. On the other hand, it seems like there have been new Transformers animated series every few years. It's a pretty easy concept, I think, to sell to new generations of children. Some have been more Pokemon, Digimon style. Some have been more for like smaller kids. I don't know where this one falls. I'm kind of hoping since it's on Netflix, it might fall more in the, like Jonathan mentioned, like Voltron, sort of like more adultish, a little bit more mature level of content.
I looked at the trailer for this one, and it seemed like it was more of that cartoony-ish style. It seemed a little more like the Transformers animated series from 10 years ago, just to my eyes. And it did seem a little homage-y to the original series. There was a scene in the trailer where Megatron and Optimus Prime have the sort of light hologram weaponry that they had in the original series doing battle. So I wonder if it's targeted to sort of a more nostalgic, light-hearted tone than some of the last few series. The last few series have been very much more sort of CGI heavy and a little more in tune with the film universe, a little more hard scrabble, fighting and conflict, and a little more dark, I guess is the best way to put it, than some of the original series.
Cool. I was going to ask, how did the Bumblebee movie do in the theaters?
I believe it did surprisingly well.
Really?
I say surprisingly well because I was not in any way interested in seeing that picture. I haven't seen the last several of those Transformers franchise films, but I do remember people sort of saying, I went, and a couple of my friends said they took their kids, and yeah, so we have a budget of $135 million, box office $460 million. So
that's not bad.
Again, and it was, consider again, that went up in Christmas week. That went up against Aquaman, which made $1 billion. It went up against Into the Spider-Verse. It went up against all the Christmas releases and stuff like that. So it's not a bad little haul for that movie. Short of $500 million. By the time you tack on the digital downloads and the Blu-rays and the Netflix sales and everything else, it'll make quite a chunk of change for that studio. So,
well, speaking of killing Don Quixote, Netflix has given the axe to Punisher and Jessica Jones. So season 3 of Jessica Jones, and I don't think there will be another season of Punisher.
No,
there is no season 3 of Jessica Jones?
There is a season 3.
Yeah, I don't think it's out yet. I think it's later this year.
Yeah, and that'll be the last Marvel Netflix series total. Because Punisher season 2 has already aired, and they're not making any more. So they just basically, in one fell swoop, canceled the last 2 shows, and that is the end of the Marvel Netflix partnership.
Interesting. All right.
Sad, but inevitable. I think we all knew it was coming, but it was sad. They were tweeting it. I saw a few of the stars of Jessica Jones tweeting it as, this is the series finale. Like, this is sort of where they wanted to go out. And I know they had said in the past, like the show's creator, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She was moving on to another show anyways. She had moved on. So there was already some debate as to what was going to happen with that show going forward. So of all the shows, that one was sort of expected to maybe wrap up after 3 anyways, but still sad to see that whole sort of street level Marvel universe sort of implode based on what is essentially a financial transaction.
You don't think it'll surface somewhere else or become a movie or something like that?
Well, I mean, Jaime, we talked about that last week, right? So the question is that, is there a life for this going forward? I'm trying to remember which star tweeted that out this week. Someone tweeted out this week, and I'll have that for our fact check next week who said it. It was Jeff Loeb, who's the Marvel television guru and great comic book writer, basically said, heroes only fall to rise again. Something along the lines of, don't be surprised if these heroes come back in some form down the road, which led to media speculation. Again, we talked last week about, in a matter of months, Disney's going to own 2/3 of Hulu. It's going to own Disney Plus is coming later this year. They still own ABC. They have a partnership with Freeform. So in some manner, they could revive this, although we did have a story a few episodes ago about the fact that there seemed to be some sort of moratorium of a couple of years that these cannot be revived. So,
oh right, yeah, 2 years or something like that.
Yeah. So I guess it's a question: is it sort of 2 years from the debut date of the last season, or is it 2 years after the last series of these shows is over? So it remains to be seen what that actually means. But I mean, I wouldn't give up on this. They seem like they were successful enough that they could revive them in some form. The question is, again, will past seasons exist on Netflix? Will Disney buy the rights back so that they can air them on another platform? There's a lot of logistics to work out, right?
All right, what's next?
Well, it's an all-star cast that's being brought together. Maybe the Jessica Jones and Punisher folks will join this all-star cast of Green Eggs and Ham, the new animated series for Netflix that has a whole bunch of people, including Adam. I don't know if it's Devine or Divine. I can't remember how his name's pronounced. And Michael Douglas will play the titular characters Sam I Am and Guy I Am, and a whole bunch of other celebrities appearing like Diane Keaton, Eddie Izzard, Jillian Bell, Keegan-Michael Key. So apparently it follows a more unique story. So it's not just Green Eggs and Ham. I won't eat them here, I won't eat them there, sort of thing. We'll see how that goes. The teaser trailer doesn't really show that much.
So this is a book that can be read in 15 minutes, and they're going to make a full movie out of it.
I mean, have you seen The Grinch recently, or Horton Hears a Who, or
Lorax?
The Lorax? Yep.
No, I think I've seen bits of the Jim Carrey green guy, but Grinch. But I haven't seen the new Grinch movie, or I haven't seen Lorax either.
Yeah, they can build those things out. It'll be interesting to see how they break that into a world in a series versus a movie, because they have been doing these theatrical pictures. It'll be interesting to see what that becomes in even a limited series.
Maybe the Green Eggs and Ham will be like a running joke or something.
Yeah, it seems like a gag that would be really stretched thin over the course of however many episodes. Do you remember, Jaime, how many episodes it is?
No,
there?
I didn't see.
Yeah, again, it seems like a stretched thin premise, but it's not, I don't think, catering to any of the three of us. If it was for your granddaughter / my niece, Tim, it would probably be much more well received. But
right,
and she won't care that Jillian Jacobs is in it.
All right. Okay, well, I guess you're off, John, with Kevin Smith and news.
So Jaime had the news for us last week about The Offenders, the series of Marvel cartoon series that are coming to Hulu. 4 different series that are going, one of which is going to be Howard the Duck. And we mentioned that Kevin Smith is going to be one of the creators of that show. Now, he released out on his social media feeds this week that he has asked Leah Thompson, who of course famously was the legit star of the ill-fated Howard the Duck movie, make her voice, use her voice on the show. And he said she hasn't said no. I believe she said, let's see, she did not say no. This is how he says it on his social media feed. Some sites are reporting that as she said yes, but it does sound like it is happening. So interesting to see if she's going to play Beverly, the character from that was sort of Howard's girlfriend / friend in the live action movie, or if this is going to be in some other role. But as one of the 3 people on the earth who loves the Howard the Duck movie, I'm totally stoked about this. I am a huge Howard the Duck fan, both of the comic and the film. I read the novel when I was like 12 years old. The novelization of the movie.
You have a poster on your wall too?
I still have the original poster on my wall here. It's sitting right behind me here in my my little downstairs room. Yes. So hearing hearing that Kevin was going to be doing the Howard the Duck series was exciting because, I know he's a fan. And so that's exciting. Hearing that he went straight to her makes me more excited because I know he's such a nerd fanboy, and that's going to be a great addition to what sounded like a great premise for a show. So yes, very, very excited about that one.
Cool. All right. What's new in sports?
New in sports. This just in sports. Lightsaber dueling is now an official sport recognized by France. So this one was a lot of fun this week. So this is a legit story. It came out of France. This is reported by the Associated Press. France has now granted lightsaber dueling the same status as a competitive sport as fencing.
Fencing, okay.
So they have to use these LED lit polycarbonate lightsaber replicas, and the way that it's basically done is it's organized into 3-minute matches, and you get points, not unlike fencing. You get points for hits to certain areas of the body. So you can hit the hands, the arms, the torso, or the head, and you get a certain number of points for that. And this is going to be a recognized competitive sport. And the rationale was essentially, kids are not doing enough. People are getting lazy. People aren't getting enough exercise. If this is a way to get young people interested in getting out there and being athletic because they want to be Darth Maul or Obi-Wan Kenobi, then more power to them. So interesting, weird kind of decision, but really, really interesting.
Cool.
And the France will actually be hosting the Olympics in 2024, but alas, it does not seem likely that by 2024 it will be recognized as an internationally sanctioned sport. So
that is sad.
Yeah, I really feel like it should. I mean, they've experimented with adding some crazy sports. I don't see why they couldn't add this.
Well, it's funny because they do demonstration sports, right? They do demonstration sports. They've done weird stuff in the past, like windsurfing and skateboarding and all kinds of stuff, just to sort of added in some of the flavor of different sports to the Olympics as exhibition sports, not medal sports. I would tune in for the lightsaber dueling. Would you guys not tune in for the lightsaber dueling?
Yeah, totally.
Who's the world champion of lightsaber dueling? Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
And in other great Star Wars news, so there's a new VR experience that was announced this week, and I don't know how to feel about this one, so I'll just put it out here. So, Porgs. Porgs? You guys are familiar with Porgs?
No.
Porgs. So in the spirit of Tamagotchi, this VR experience called Project Porg, which is a VR experience, will let you take care of your raise, and take care of your own pet Porg.
Right.
In virtual reality in your own home. So as you look around, it'll be like on your shelf. You'll have to help it down. You have to keep it from hurting itself. You have to make sure it's fed and taken care of. You too can raise your own Porg.
Cool. Yeah. They'll ban them from schools.
What's that?
They'll ban them from schools. Like, you can't bring your Porg to school.
Well, it's not going to be like a phone app. This is going to be in a full a VR headset experience, it seems like. Although, I'm not sure. It says here that it's going to be ILM Lab. I don't know what that does as far as device. So maybe it is going to be a VR experience like Pokemon Go or something like that, as opposed to an actual VR headset game. But it's either way. I just don't know about the idea of having to come home and feed the Porg. It does sound an awful lot like a euphemism.
To add some clarity, it looks like here they mention the Magic Leap 1. I'm not sure if that's like the official one they're starting with.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know what that device is.
I think it's like a Microsoft HoloLens. It's a pair of glasses, like large visor sort of thing that you wear, and you have a sort of limited range field of view where you can see the augmented reality character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not so much a traveling experience as a in your home experience.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think any of these VR units of this caliber that they're going for are like easily portable. You wouldn't just take it to school. Like,
if I'm going to raise a Porg, I want the best quality VR experience in raising my Porg.
Okay.
I guess it might also be for like kids. I mean, think if you don't have the like, if your kids aren't old enough to have the responsibility of a live animal, or maybe you're like in a situation that doesn't allow it, you have an apartment that doesn't allow dogs and cats and sort of thing, I could see that as being an alternative.
So the question is, if you get sick of it, can you barbecue it a la Chewbacca?
Yeah, that'd be a really sick option, because I do remember the Tamagotchis would get sick and die in their piles of poop if they weren't properly fed and taken care of. So
people were sadistically doing those things too, right? They were like, hiding each other's Tamagotchis and killing them, right?
Interesting. What if they had Tamagotchi vaccines?
Yeah. You have to inoculate your porg.
Yeah. All right, Jaime, what's next with Jordan Peele?
We have the first full trailer for his Twilight Zone reboot, which will be hitting, not the trailer, but the actual series will be hitting CBS All Access on April 1st. It's wildly unclear to me where that ends up in other countries, so I don't really have the news there, but you can at least watch this fine trailer that shows what appears to be, little bits of content from the various episodes, and I could have sworn one of the masks looked really familiar. I'd have to look up to see which original episode they're referencing. It's maybe the Gremlin one with William Shatner, where he's on the airplane. I think that was a shot that I saw in there. It goes kind of fast. You can see a lot of celebrity faces you'll recognize.
Right. Okay, cool. So it's not a remake of the movie that they made a while ago.
No, it looks to be more anthology series style. It did not appear to have any sort of cohesive story from what I could tell.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to watch that show when I was really like a young kid, maybe 8 or 9. And so there were some really twisted shows I remember from watching them back then. Yeah, cool. I had to stay real late to watch them. So what's next, Jaime? Yeah,
I added this one as a bit of completeness because I've notionally vaguely heard of what this is. We're talking about The Wandering Earth, which was China's blockbuster film. It made apparently 600 million in theaters over there, and Netflix is getting the streaming rights for that. So I'll be interested to see what this is like. I haven't seen a blockbuster movie of this type come out of China. I know there was another one that was really hot over there, like something related to a mermaid, I want to say. It did not appear on any of my streaming channels, so this will be my first opportunity I see on seeing how a different culture approaches the sci-fi series.
Yeah, and the art of storytelling too.
Genre.
Yeah, storytelling's tricky. So this last one here is from me. It's basically Harry Nilsson. Surprisingly, I haven't watched Russian Doll yet, but apparently his song highlighted. But there's a documentary here that's been around for a few years called "Who Is Harry Nilsson and Why Is Everybody Talking About Him?" It's surprising. He was surprisingly prolific as a music writer of pop songs in I guess the late 60s. In fact, the Beatles even sort of circled around him. He inspired them, they inspired him, and he wrote quite a variety of songs. But it's interesting that his music has surfaced again in Russian Doll as I guess the theme song. I'm not sure where it lands.
It's Gotta Get Up is the song that they play, and they play it basically. You guys are familiar with the premise of the show. She dies and is reborn, and dies and is reborn, and dies and reborn in the same moment. Every time she reappears in that same moment, that's the song that's playing on the stereo. So every time she dies and comes back, you hear that song again and again and again and again and again.
Right. So it's like the Sonny and Cher song.
Yes.
I Got You, Babe, right?
Yes, exactly. So that's the song. So you hear it over and over again, and it becomes this real earworm through the show as this trigger. So as soon as you hear the song, you know that she's died and she's come back again.
Right. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we've arrived at the moment when we talk about this week's episode. Is it called The Sounds of Thunder?
The Sounds of Thunder.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. So we just the three of us just watched it separately, and we'll convene and talk about what we just watched. So who wants to go?
I don't know. Is it your turn?
Well, I guess I could. I have my notes here. Let me just grab those. But I take my note taking of the show is a little different than your two guys. I don't really favor the whole recap every living moment of the show, but because I make notes on things that stand out, it starts out with they get a signal, Captain, you need it on the bridge. They've detected another red angel signal, and they decide to go and explore it. And it turns out that it's actually around the angel has appeared around Kaminar, which is Seru's homeworld, which he left, and we saw in the shorts in the summertime. He leaves because the other species on this planet. Apparently, there's two species on this planet: the Ba'ul and the Kelpians. And the Kelpians are subservient to the Ba'ul. In fact, they sort of reach a sort of adolescence period, I guess, and they give themselves up to the Ba'ul, and the Ba'ul, basically rule them. And Ba'ul is a warp culture, so they've got warp technology. They've been brought into the Federation, or the Federation knows who they are, that kind of stuff, and they made an agreement, to leave them alone, kind of thing, right? I just remember at one point Saru talks about the fact that he didn't plan on returning to his home world because he felt that having gone and joined Starfleet and learned that there's more to this world, or more than what the Kelpians see as life, being just sort of living to give themselves up to the Ba'ul. That's what he calls the price of knowledge, right? The Kelpians believe the only truth in life is the great balance, which is the giving themselves up or sacrificing themselves to the Ba'ul. And they live in the awe of the Ba'ul technology. Anyway, so and he mentions that the priests are the only ones that connect all the communities, because they want to figure out, they're trying to communicate with the planet and find out how they do that. And I forget now if they had tried to hail the Ba'ul, and the Ba'ul is not answering them, and so they start talking about another strategy for figuring out what they can do. And so Pike says to Burnham, well, you have to go down there. You're the xenobiologist. You need to go down there and make contact with them and find out what's going on, and be careful of General Order 1, not to mess it up. And Saru gets up, and this is the first time we see Saru being sort of aggressive and saying, but of course I'm the one that should go, because these are my people. And so you should let me go or let me go and sort of do the talking. And so Pike capitulates and says, okay, well, Saru and Burnham can go with Saru as sort of an observer and a helper and a translator, if you will. So they beam down to the planet, and they find out that there's the moment there when they land on the planet. It's nighttime, everybody's gone to bed, sort of thing, and Saru and Michael Burnham have a sort of touching moment where he talks about this culling, which was seen as a sort of a mercy, or accepted as a mercy, but the priests were actually, including his father, who was a priest, was what he calls collaborator. So he's now seen through the Ba'ul's deception that this is actually some sort of bad thing, right? So they run into one Kelpian who's a priestess, and it turns out that it's actually Saru's sister, Sarana, which we saw in the shorts as well. And she mentions seeing the fiery sign, and that she has seen it, and she understands what they're talking about. She's a little taken back by the fact that she and Burnham can talk to each other, and Burnham points out that they're using a universal translator to do that, right? Again, it's all about the first part of the first setup of the show, or the first half of the show, is sort of the setup of what's going on with Saru and his indignation with the fact that the Kelpians are duped and all that kind of stuff, right? And just when at some point the Earth starts shaking and turns out the Ba'ul is coming. They have a what do you call it? A pylon, they call it, on the beach, which is how the Ba'ul watch what's going on in the villages, and they call it the watchful eye. So you're living under the eye and all that kind of stuff. So which is what oppressive people normally say. Or oppressed people, I should say. They realize that the Ba'ul are coming, and they got to get out of there, PDQ, and so they beam up to the ship, and the Ba'ul surround the Discovery and say, with these big giant ships and weapons, pointed at the ship, and they say, you start hailing and speaking with Pike and the rest of the Discovery, saying, you've taken what belongs to us, and because they believe that they've stolen the Kelpian, as opposed to having. Saru gets up in his knickers in a twist and starts yelling at the Ba'ul as well, and Pike just sort of turns to him and says, get off the deck, get off the bridge, you're excused and you're not helping, blah, 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 and that's an order. And of course, Saru had earlier had agreed that he would obey orders if given such. So he was given that order, and that sort of leads to the sort of middle of the show. And we're trying to figure out what's going on, and a small little piece that appears sort of in the beginning beginning part of the show. It doesn't really come back into play very much, but it's all about Dr. Culber, and he's back. He's not feeling himself, kind of thing, and turns out that he's in fact what they call pristine. He's basically been reconstituted back to himself, and special effects being what they are, he's just, he turns out that he's like in perfect shape. In fact, his scar that he decided to keep on his shoulder as a reminder of his journey has didn't get replicated, because obviously it was just, he's basically like a clean copy of his old self, complete with memories, which, I don't know. You got to stretch that one a bit. So just an interesting point. I think that'll probably come into play later on, that Culver is now a pure copy of himself, right? So, in order to solve the problem, going back to the Ba'ul surrounding the ship, to go back to solve the problem of what are they going to do, Saru decides that he instead of going to his quarters, he heads over to the transporter and has himself beamed over to the Ba'ul ship. And of course, as soon as they've got what they wanted, they take off and they head back to the planet. So we beam onto now, and of course, they have some sort of shielding technology, and sort of the Discovery can't follow and find out where Saru has been taken as they disappear into the planet. So literally and figuratively, so he's inside this holding cell inside the Ba'ul ship, and his sister is beamed onto the ship as well by the Ba'ul into the same cell. And at one point, Saru is kind of thrown. These sort of drones come in and throw him against the wall, and he gets handcuffed and neck cuffed, and I assume ankle cuffed to the wall, so he can't move. And his sister's kind of free at that moment, but eventually she also gets, thrown against the wall and captured as well. But a Ba'ul appears out of the tar pit. There's the famous tar pit from the Star Trek tropes, right? And sort of comes out, and again, elbows and knees and 5 fingers and a head sort of thing. But anyway, the Ba'ul comes out of this sort of tar pitty thing, and they're all covered in this slime, and they have this sort of really synthesized voices, very sort of echoey, boomy kind of voices, telling Saru, or that, you don't know what you are, and, we'll tell you what's going on. Meanwhile, Burnham and Tilly and what's the other woman's name? The robot woman?
Ariam.
Ariam is looking into, and Tilly's like, yeah, we're checking out. We're trying to find out what's going on. And of course, Ariam's sort of spitting back the answers, and Tilly goes, okay, well, she's looking up the answers. I'm just standing here and looking pretty. But so they discover that there's a, I forget where they get the sphere from, but there's they use a sphere to sort of go back through the history. It contains the entire history of the planet, and they go back and they look at the population counts. At one point, the Kelpians far outnumbered the Ba'ul. In fact, it got to a certain point where it was almost a tipping point where there was almost no Ba'ul left, and then it switches back, and then the Ba'ul become the dominant species, right? And it turns out that there was almost an extinction level event with the Ba'ul. And meanwhile, we flash back to the ship, and the Ba'ul creature is explaining to Saru that the issue is that once the Kelpians reach this sort of adulthood, if you will, or this next level, I forget the name, Valari or whatever the name is. When you guys got it in the notes here? Valharai. Once they reach that sort of stage in life, they become predators to the Ba'ul. In fact, the Ba'ul was once the prey, and the only thing I can say is these Nerf launchers come out of the back of Ba'ul's, or out of Saru's head, and fire little ballistic rockets at the Ba'ul. It doesn't really seem to have much of an effect, which I find surprising. And I kind of wondered, do they regenerate? How does he make new little projectiles?
I think it was a pufferfish thing, and the angle that they showed the quills not doing anything was a little unclear. But if you look again, you can see that freezes
them in space.
I think there was a force field or something, because the Ba'ul are all about technology. So he was not taking any chances. I guess he took a little bit of a chance, even appearing instead of just using on the drones and stuff. But it did give us a neat look at what visually reminded me of Armus from the Skin of Evil episode on TNG.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, this Nerf launcher comes out, and then I stopped taking many notes, but because it just kind of got all sort of visually, like back and forth for the last 20 minutes of the show. At one point, the Baul ship comes out of the water, or if you will, out of an ocean. It reminds me of that same. I can't tell you a number of sci-fi movies I've seen. I just think of Atlantis as one, of course. But like, I'm sure there's a James Cameron movie, maybe The Sphere or something like that, where this alien ship comes out of the water. But it's just sort of, the triangle shape or whatever with the circles. And, we've seen that 1,000 times in sci-fi movies. But anyway, that's what's been hiding in the ocean. It comes out, and there's a big conflagration sort of battle or whatever. And in the middle of that whole battle, the Red Angel shows up I just remember one point, Pike sort of says, you be careful what you're doing, and your next choice, better be an important one, so choose wisely. But anyway, so the Red Angel comes up and sort of is seen as a savior, and it turns out that Saru's vision is so clear that he can actually see that it's actually a humanoid in a mechanical suit, not just some of this mysterious red lit person, right? That's pretty much where I stopped taking notes, and they basically just get in. So I think we might want to jump in if there's anything I've missed in terms of the end. But the Red Angel kind of saves the day, and sort of like does an EMP pulse to have everybody stand down, kind of thing, right? Yeah.
So the reason why they sort of lose their bananas is because so Saru breaks free and he frees Sarana. They're gonna kill the two of them, and their plan is basically that they're going to trigger the Vahara using the sphere, right? So they're going to trigger it, and all the Kelpians, they're going to basically set them all free the way that he is by eliminating their fear and starting that next evolutionary process for them. And so when the Baul realize what that is, they decide they're going to commit genocide, basically kill them all. So they power up those pillars and are going to wipe them all out. And that's when the Red Angel shows up, and basically before the disco can actually stop things from happening, because they can't, the Red Angel actually shows up, generates this pulse, and stops the Baul from committing the genocide. And that's when Saru gets a good look at him. So the last little bit is that we get a little debrief where Pike shares his report on what Saru sees with Tyler, and they basically now know that it's a time traveling humanoid with advanced technology that seems to be doing this, because clearly they've been as they talked about in the beginning of the episode, they traveled back and transported the people to the planet from, I think it was episode 2. So we're getting a little closer to the truth of what this person is. And then Saru basically sort of says to Sarana, like, hey, this is awesome to be back in your life, and it's nice, why don't you come with me? She says, no, I'm going to stay here and help my people. But now Saru is free to go home whenever he likes, which is sort of a big load off his shoulders, because he was always the outcast. He couldn't go back, and because he now has that ability to go home again, it sparks Burnham to say, you know what, in our search for Spock, the never-ending search for Spock, I need to go home to Vulcan, which tees us up for next episode, where obviously they're headed back to Vulcan. Episode 7 of 14, perhaps they'll finally get a look at Mr. Spock.
Yes. So the Red Angel is basically Doctor Who, right?
Yeah. Oh, if it can be Jodie Whittaker. Please be Jodie Whittaker. I'd take Tom Baker. I'm not picky.
Yeah, at this point.
What'd you make of all this, Jaime?
I thought it was a good episode that brought together a lot of things that they've been talking about. So it made the $5.99 I paid for that 1 month in particular to get Saru's story. So, getting the background on that was, I think, pretty helpful. I guess it could have been part of an episode, but it was kind of nice that you get a little bit of extra flavor of how that relationship worked between him and his sister, and joining Starfleet, and then having that payoff here on learning more about how that society was structured by the Baul, and also just the we wouldn't have seen the sister before up until this point, right, if you hadn't seen the short track with it. So I thought that was pretty good. And they brought together the info from the Sphere, right? Remember the Sphere was causing all the chaos for their communication systems when it was trying to leave its dying legacy with them.
Oh, that's the Sphere that they were using.
Yeah, like the what you saw on screen this time was like a holographic projection of like, this is what it looked like, and this is like the visual representation of its archive.
Oh,
that's where
they had
looked
it
through
in computer memory. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, they looked through the records of what the Sphere had given them right before it blew up.
Right.
Yeah,
I think the Sphere, the movie The Sphere, maybe one of those movies where the thing comes out of the water, like I was talking, right?
Yeah, and like the Abyss, probably, depending on
the Abyss. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. The Abyss. Thank you. And it was James Cameron. All right, what do you think, John?
Yeah, again, another good episode. I think they're on a bit of a roll. You know, last week we sort of got that culmination of the whole Tilly and the Mayshroom storyline that had been building from the beginning of the season, and it actually had sort of started with that little spore landing on her shoulder at the end of last season. And this one, you know, we get that payoff as as Jaime said, it's a nice little payoff for watching those short treks. And you know, that was one of the things we really sort of speculated on was, are these little one-offs, do they matter, are they just little sort of tastes of the universe, or are they actually going to be consequences? And this is the first time we've really seen it come back and be a legit payoff for those stories tying into the main story. It really did spark in my mind as this was paying off, and we do go back to the planet and we already have that established in our minds, even from that little 15-minute episode. It made me think of the other 3 episodes and think, I wonder, are they going to tie those things in together, and you know, some of the mysteries that were sort of tied into those ones, and what does that mean, and are we going to see more from that? So that's kind of a neat seed to plant. And maybe they're going to do them this season, or maybe they're going to do them next season, or maybe they're never going to do them. But it was interesting to see the way that paid off. But I think it was a nice little sort of way to bring that all back together. We had the story about, you know, the short trek about, you know, Saru's origin. Then we got the, you know, advancement of his character where he lost his fear in that episode a couple episodes ago, and now this sort of conclusion to that. So again, it feels like they're sort of doing these nice little character arcs. You know, Tilly's had her good arc. We got a little bit of the Stamets, I'm leaving the ship. Now Hugh's back. Okay, so some development for his character. We got some development for Saru now. So we're really kind of moving these, you know, we're moving the pieces forward a little bit, which is kind of exciting. That, you know, the flavor and the recipe for the season was always going to be Spock, but while we're doing that really slowly, you know, we're still getting some very satisfying episodes. And you know, again, I was sort of up and down on the first season. I think the Klingon thing kind of dragged a little bit, but I'm really digging season 2. This is going really well for me. So yeah, I liked it.
I have a question. Didn't Harry Mudd have a time traveling machine? Like, how was he able to get to all those different planets? So he was cloning himself, right?
Yes, it was the cloning himself. You know, got spoilers for the short track, but yeah, he was basically making automatrons of himself.
And he disguised himself as a female bounty hunter.
But he was using time travel last season, right? That was how he was. He was basically resetting the time as he was going in and trying to rig things. That's how he kept killing Captain Lorca over and over again.
Well, was that a time travel thing, or they were stuck in a time loop, sort of?
Well, but he was creating the loop, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had like a device or a crystal or some other MacGuffin thing that let him do it.
Yeah. No, again, I think we're seeing some good progress. I still think, you know, again, I don't know. Did you guys see the teaser for next week's episode that the little stinger there at the end there? So, you know,
I didn't.
Yeah, basically it's just a little, you know, whatever they do, 20 seconds, and it follows exactly where you think it's going to go. It follows them to Vulcan, and there's a mystery, and they have to go to Vulcan. So I think we might finally get the arrival of Lieutenant Spock, and then we'll really start getting into, you know, hopefully that second arc. So as we said, 14 episodes this season. This was episode 6 this season. So we'll get to the halfway mark. So that sort of sets us up for a second half, sort of building that arc and fulfilling, you know, building on the mystery and figuring out who the Red Angel is and why they're doing what they're doing. And, you know, do you guys have any speculation at all on, do you think this is going to be something familiar, or this is going to be, you know, something random?
This being feature, which thing in particular?
The Red Angel, I guess.
Oh, the Red Angel specific. Okay.
If we've established now that it's a humanoid, are we supposing that this is going to be an existing character, a character from another timeline, a character? You know, is it Jean-Luc Picard? Is it you know,
the mysterious future guy?
Yeah, I mean, it could be anybody's anything. It could be something that pre-exists. It could be a species that they haven't encountered in this timeline yet. It could be, you know, it could be a Ferengi. Like, who knows? How they could go forward with this. I don't know if you guys have any insight into what they could possibly do to make this the most unexpected twist possible.
Yeah. All right. So this gets crazy, but I have mentioned before that Discovery Season 2 is setting
Will
up...
Wheaton.
It's Wesley Crusher. Yeah.
It's Wesley Crusher with the Traveler tech. I think Discovery's been setting up a lot of things that can help resolve and weave into the pre-existing canon, right? A lot of people are like, hey, what's up with Spore Drive? Well, they kind of set up like where the Spore Drive might end up. Even more, minor things like, hey, what's the deal with Kelpians? Like, we haven't seen it well because Saru was like kind of the only one, and now they're like a pre-warp society. It's tricky to deal with. And I could see them potentially resolving the Michael Burnham as the like surprise sister if she ends up in some sort of like temporal loop or causality loop.
It's Tasha Yar, totally.
Yeah, it's Tasha Yar. And they're riding, hitchhiking with Elvis sort of thing, where spoilers for like Madoka Magica, but I could see that sort of thing where like this one character is constantly in this loop trying to prevent this particular destiny, but they can never actually prevent it. And all they do is by preventing it is causing it to occur and then getting back into the loop.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking the most Star Trek thing to do in all this would have it be Michael Burnham or some weird twist. It'll be Lorca, but this universe is Lorca, or it'll be, what I mean? Like, if you're looking for those, like, dun dun dun, M. Night Shyamalan twist, like, this universe is Lorca popped into my head. Another version of Burnham who's caught in a time loop. I was trying to think of sort of, who else matters at this point. That's the problem with this. The only criticism I could still have about this Star Trek Discovery as a series is we've really only gotten to deeply know like 5 characters, right? Saru, Burnham, Ash,
Giorgio and Pike.
Yeah, and even Giorgio, like...
Well, which Giorgio are we talking about?
But we didn't really get to know the original. She got her head eaten, and then we've kind of get to know the Emperor, but even then, she's kind of an enigma. Pike, I don't feel like I know him terribly well more on this. Like, I keep seeing him as, the larger character from some of the expanded stuff, but, like, really, it's been very... Oh, and Tilly, I guess. Tilly's the other one, right? Oh, I mean, Stamets, I guess, So, not a lot. So, by figuring out those characters, you're like, okay, is it any of them? Maybe, no. Stamets in some weird Spore Drive gone red, Yeah,
Jet Reno, maybe.
Jet Reno. It's Culber after he decides he has to leave the ship because he's now too perfect to exist.
Oh, okay. So that one might have an angle to it because he is... So early in the episode, you had the Saru and Culber moment, right? Saru brings to the point that they've both gone through these traumatic changes and they're no longer who they were, and therefore maybe now this could lead them on the path on who they should be. And for Saru, that means, hulking out and being more assertive and like generally not living afraid and understanding that his whole lifestyle was a lie and just completely going into an area where he's no longer comfortable. Culber, though, is like reconstituted via, Meishru magic or tech. And so you could see that like maybe something outgrows from that. I mean, they mentioned like, hey, he doesn't have a scar because it reconstituted his body perfectly. And he feels like he's not quite himself, which, Dr. Pollard says like, oh, that's just because like, you're like a brand new baby, you're not adjusted to dealing with the world yet. It'll take a while to adjust. It could be a little hint there that something major is going to happen with him. Yeah. And we've mentioned we presume that the Spore Drive and the Mycela network is no longer going to be available. So like, Voyager can't use it in the future, for example. So maybe this entity /Culber /Michael Burnham will cause that to happen. Maybe that's how they're going through things at the moment. I don't know. There's tons of speculation about this sort of stuff. I think right prior to this episode, people were speculating that maybe the Baul were evolved Kelpians. That turned out not to be the case. Yeah,
it occurred to me early in the episode. I actually wrote that down as a note. Was like, maybe this is the case. But they, it became pretty clear that as they were started doing the plot exposition with the sphere stuff, I was like, oh no, okay, that makes more sense. So, but
or the Kelpians turn into zombie mad crazy hunters and try to eradicate everybody. Right? That's another plot line that could happen.
Yeah. yeah. I still can't get over the like predator covered in road tar. That was very weird. That was a very weird alien effect. I really was hoping when those little probes showed up and they were like, you know, right up in Saru's face and they were like scanning him and then they were scanning Sarana. I really wanted them to be like 3 inches tall. To be like, you're the Bahu. Like, no, just, you know, like little itty bitty guys.
Big
be like,
voice synthesizers, yeah.
We've got you under our thumb, but we're this big.
Yeah, like Men in Black style. It's not drones. It's little spaceships that they're flying right up to his face.
That's it.
Yeah.
I really thought that would have been an excellent twist to be like, that's why they're subjugating you, because you're 25 times the size of them.
Yeah. Well, don't forget Star Trek did that first with Clint Howard, right?
Yeah, that's true. The baby, yeah.
You know, I wrote a note here that this sort of brings things a little bit more full circle for the Kelpian physiology. If you remember, okay, let's set the stage here. So really early on, Saru says that his people were prey, right? And it was like, oh man, okay, well, all right, that's what you were. You're prey. You're being hunted down. And eventually, we learned that in the short track, that they're more prey in the like cattle sense rather than like, I don't know, hunting deer sort of sense. But in between, something I hadn't thought about that really sort of came together with this episode was like, wait a minute, remember that episode where they were on, I want to say it was Pavo, not Parvo, the disease?
Yes.
They're on Pavo and Saru didn't feel the fear because the entities on there were like interfering with that. Yep. And he kind of hulks out and goes crazy there. And he was kind of terrifying, like how his size led him to like run 40 miles an hour or something crazy. And he was like super strong and just freaking out. And it clearly like more than a match for a normal human.
Yeah.
And it made us think probably at the time, we'd have to go back to an episode like, oh, like what the hell hunts them down? You know, if he's like this badass compared to us, like what kind of hulking monster must eat them? And now it sort of makes more sense, like, oh, that's how it works. It was a technological play with, you know, cultural brainwashing, I guess, right? To like subjugate this people. And that's how the Baul were able to get away with this stuff.
Yeah, I do think my favorite moment in this week's episode was the moment when Saru, being banished from the bridge, takes the turbo lift down to the deck with the transporter. And he's standing there and he's trying to figure out what to do. And everybody's rushing around trying to get to their stations. And then he decides, okay, this is it. I'm going to go to the transporter room and I'm going to surrender myself. And he starts walking down the hallway and he does that hilariously awesome walk that Doug Jones does, where he walks and he waves his big, long, gangly arms behind him as he walks. Kills me every time. That great body language that Doug Jones has. He's such an amazing physical actor, where he's just like, I'm going, and he starts like walking with determination to the hallway, but his big flowing arms are waving behind him. I just love it. I love it every time.
Like a cape.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes him look more alien, which is something I appreciate for the higher budget of Disco versus like, you know, TNG or Deep Space Nine or something.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say about the humanoid Red Angel. Every character on Star Trek is a humanoid.
Yeah, more or less. Human shape.
Unless they're a cloud or a video effect or something. Yeah.
Well, I guess what they were establishing was that those aren't wings. That's technology, right?
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. So what about the conversation that Pike and Ash have at the end there? I mean, like, you know, they're talking about the technology and stuff like that, but they seem to be pals now all of a sudden. Or co-workers. Like, I thought Ash was like, you know, part of Section 31 and not to be trusted, and technically he's also a Klingon. And
I mean, Pike sort of has that sort of, you know, slightly curt way of sort of saying, you know, in the spirit of, you know, working together. Like, I think he's doing it a little bit grudgingly, but I think he's trying to sort of build a bridge because he wants that to be a two-way street. He wants the share of information. So he shares Saru's report, trying to sort of see if they can compare notes a little bit. I think he's trying to pump Ash for information a little bit.
Right. Yeah, because I noticed Ash walked away with the little iPad, right? So
yeah.
So did you guys think of the implication for... Well, okay, I guess two quick things. One was I wrote a note about just people I think will probably wonder after watching this episode, like, hey, they played a little fast and loose with the Prime Directive General Order 1. Mm-hmm. Maybe they did address, like, it's kind of a sticky situation. Here's how we can sort of, like, lawyer our way into to get any exception here, and especially given the priority nature of figuring out the Red Angel and the signals thing. But it was interesting that the Baul, when they were communicating with the Discovery, it said like, "Yo, Starfleet promised us it wasn't going to mess with our situation," which is it adds a little bit of extra complication of like, oh, maybe they were totally in the right to do this then, right? Like Starfleet clearly was aware of this situation and may have decided for different reasons why it didn't want to get involved.
True.
That was item 1. And item 2 was when I thought, oh, wait a minute, after the Vaharai was artificially triggered for all the Kelpians, I said, wait a minute, in the mirror universe, the Terran Empire has subjugated the Kelpians and they eat them. Does that mean they figured out this particular evolution and they're just like calling them, the Kelpian who's washing your body in the bath or scrubbing your toilets is like, oh, look, his ganglia is getting a little, engorged there. Well, better get a new staff member, send this one off to the culinary school and let them handle him.
By the way, Pike did say early in the episode, we can stretch General Order 1, but let's not break it. So they did realize they were skirting around the rules a bit.
Yeah, they went in with good intentions and then they were like kind of stuck, as you mentioned, with the, don't make enemies of us sort of thing. And they started having to shoot at all the different obelisks sort of thing to make them stop from killing or doing genocide for the Kelpians.
Yeah. We move on to our Orville discussion.
Our favorite show ever.
I don't think it was a bad episode. I think Tim even grudgingly accepted it as
once again we'll have Mr. Lopez for the defense, and we'll have Mr. Mitra for the prosecution.
I just have one thing to say: the Next Generation did it.
Yeah,
and Simpsons probably did it too.
I want to even preface it with something I tweeted about during the week, which was I kind of felt like this episode, in context with all these other, like, wow, Moclan society is really kind of weird and doesn't fit with the Planetary Union way of thinking. I kind of wonder if they're going to do their own take on the Way of the Warrior episode of Deep Space Nine, where Worf joins. The Klingons are like, yo, we have this problem over here. We're going to go beat up the Cardassians. And the Federation's like, no, you can't do that. That's not cool. And then they end up fighting, right? These allies are no longer allies for a period of time. I kind of get the sense that this is where it's heading.
All right, so I guess the name of this episode is Deflector, Season 2, Episode 7, Jonathan?
Yep, that's right.
All right, you got some notes here. Why don't you dig in?
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version here. So, episode starts with Kelly, the first officer. She dumps her boyfriend, the teacher, and that's sort of sparks this sort of lingering thing throughout the episode of relationships, which sort of continues through the whole episode. Bortus's ex-boyfriend arrives, and he is a Moclan engineer who's helping them develop and add new deflector system to the Orville's shields, I guess, new deflectors. It is sort of, we were reminded once again that Moclan is an all-male culture, and so obviously all same-sex relationships, but we learned very quickly that in spite of the fact that Bortus is sort of a little bit off-put by having his ex-boyfriend there, that the ex-boyfriend is actually into women, because he asks Callie, the new security chief, out on a date, and they go out and they go on a date on the holodeck, and so she's a little taken aback, but she's actually kind of into it a little bit, and then Callie gets called away for an emergency, and when she returns, it appears that the boyfriend is gone, and then they realize that she figures out that he's actually been disintegrated. They figure out that they recreate part of the simulation that they were in, and a mysterious figures has appeared and shot and killed this engineer. I can't remember, what was the guy's name? I didn't even write it down. He was that impressive. But anyways, so they eventually, through a bunch of techno babble, figure out a way to figure out how to clarify that signal. They figure out that it's Clyden, who's actually Bortus's husband, who killed him. It turns out that as they go through this murder mystery, Clyden denies it. He basically says, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It turns out the ex faked his death because he knew that he was going to be exposed, because Clyden basically was going to turn him in for being straight or being attracted to opposite sex. They end up figuring out out that this guy was actually hiding out on the ship. They catch him. He basically says, I was trying to do this so that I wouldn't bring shame on my family, but you know what? I'll go back and I'll face the music and I'll die in shame. And basically, Callie says, up yours to Clyden. So Clyden ends up being the monster because he was going to out this guy. And that's pretty much what there was for the episode. So it wasn't bad. It was a nice opportunity to get to know the new security chief a little bit. There was the sort of, little bit of back drama with Ed and Kelly sort of spending time together, and will her boyfriend or now ex-boyfriend win her back? And there was the murder mystery. Did Clyden, actually commit the murder? It was not, I will say, in defense of this one, it was not the worst episode we've seen this season. It was one of the better ones, to be fair. Bruce Willis guest starred as a giant flower. That was weird.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, but yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at one point,
Lokar was the name of the guy.
Yeah, at one point, Kelly's ex is trying to win her back, and he presents her with this, giant flower, and it's got Bruce Willis's voice, this giant weird CGI flower. It wasn't a terrible episode. It had its ups and downs. We got, again, a nice opportunity to get to know the new security chief a little bit better. Yet another chance after we already had, this is our third Mocklin focused episode out of 7. Clyden is not coming off well this season. He's already tried to murder/divorce Bortus. Bortus actually comes out as a more sympathetic character here because it's established that he actually knew that his ex-boyfriend was into opposite sex relationships and didn't out him, even though that is the way of their culture. So we get a sort of another building block that he is not a contemporary Mocklin.
Yeah, but by the same token, though, he caught Lokar cheating on him.
He did, but then he didn't turn him in, right?
Right. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
And so, and this also ties into the whole, they had a daughter, but he didn't want to have his daughter's gender reorganized into being male, so that it would fit in with the culture.
Yep.
So yeah, Tova. So we were getting a sort of more building blocks that the relationship between Clyden and Bortus is really kind of messed up because Clyden seems to be much more aligned with Mocklin beliefs, and it seems like Bortus isn't. We have another sort of building block that this seems like it's not going well for the two of them. And Clyden really comes off as the sort of bad of this episode because even though he did not kill this guy, he essentially ruins him because he's going to out him, and that leads to all this chaos. So, what did you think of this one, Jaime?
Yeah, I think I liked it more than probably you guys did.
Well, I think I liked it more than Tim did. So,
well, I like the Lokar holodeck murder mystery bit, and the fact that there were some interesting holes, I suppose, in the fact. Well, they did say that it was too easy to decode the image of Clyden. It was odd because they had dinner. Bortus, Clyden, and Topa had dinner with Lokar because he showed up at their house at one point, and they invite him to dinner. And I didn't really get a negative vibe from Clyden. He just sort of seemed to be like, the partner sort of recognizing previous relationship and have dinner with us kind of thing because you're a Mocklin, let's break bread, right?
Which is fine, but then he shows his true colors that he's also what's the opposite of a homophobe?
Does he do that in that dinner or he does later?
No,
on
after he finds out, because he shows up and they do sort of show the conversation that they have where he basically says, I know what you are and I'm going to basically tell everybody, and it's not jealousy over his pre-existing relationship with Bortus. That doesn't seem to be the motivation. It's just that he has this disdain for this type of person, which again is just intolerance and hatred for the opposite of the norm, which I got no time for people like that. And so Clyden,
I know the whole Mocklin society seems to be
well, it seems like it's very, very structured, and they sort of say at one point we needed to be like this because that was the only way we were going to survive. Our species had to be like this and everything else. And I think Bortus is sort of seeing more and more that there are other ways now, that it doesn't have to be like this. So I think he's sort of the one breaking from these traditional and very narrow narrow ways of thinking about the world, whereas Clyden repeatedly in the first season and again in the second season is really sort of reverting to that.
Right. I mean, it was probably one of the better episodes of the season for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the relationship with Kelly and her boyfriend was a bit tiring, but,
Yeah, but I think they needed to, again, it felt a little fast moving. I mean, we talked about this in previous episodes. This whole season feels like it's just sort of like chugging along. Like it's honestly feels like they're like, we're not going to get a third season. We got to get all of our stories wrapped up. Like they were together for what, like 3 episodes, maybe 4? Like maybe it was the beginning of the season. Either way, it's still not a long time. In the same way that they sort of rushed through some of these other storylines, it feels like they rushed this.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, should we move on to the headlines or what do you call it? Watch list. Yeah. Let's do that.
Yep. So I'll go first. I will report back on my watch list from last week. So last week I had flagged that I wanted to start watching the Umbrella Academy, a new series on Netflix. In a horrible moment of karma, after last week I bragged that I finally got to sit down and just plow through a show, which was Russian Doll, because my wife didn't want to watch it with me. She sat down and watched the first episode of Umbrella Academy with me, and so therefore I've watched 3 episodes now because I have to watch it with her. Little bit of irony in the aftermath of that one. So I have watched the first 3 episodes, and as I said last week, I have read the books. It certainly is, divergent in its way, but it's also very alike in its way. It is as over the top. It is as weird. It is as dark as the book is at times. Obviously, they're fleshing things out, but I've really enjoyed the first 3 episodes. And it's only a 10 episode series, so hopefully in the next week or 2 I will be able to plow through the rest of that. So that's really my watch list, is to get back into that one and hopefully try and get through to the end of that one. I'm curious to see. They're already blending elements from both the first 2 Umbrella Academy stories, which came out well over a decade ago. It'll be interesting to see as they continue how much they intertwine those first 2 stories into one, because they just started doing the 3rd Umbrella Academy story last year. So I wonder if this is a one-off series or if they're planning on doing season 2, 3, 4 of this, where they go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I saw 1 episode of that, and it seemed pretty intriguing. Kind of felt like X-Men through the lens of the Watchmen kind of style of cynicism. It's kind of more X-Men-y in the, like, hey, these people have, they're born with these powers and they can do different things, and they've got like a Charles Xavier person who brought them together, but it's sort of told largely through references to the past of their heyday, kind of like Watchmen follows. So that maybe that's why it sort of appealed to me.
Yeah.
And continuing with your watch list stuff, I'm just kind of coattail stuff. I watched and finished Russian Doll, which I enjoyed, and saw two episodes of Happy, which I thought was pretty interesting too. So I'll probably end up completing that.
Cool.
I love that show. That was one of my favorite shows from last year.
Happy.
I thought that was so great. I was a fan of the book, but I think they did such a great job of elevating that one. It was just so goofy and over the top. Patton Oswalt as the character was just so great.
Yeah. All right. So I see you have a link here on your watch list, Jaime.
Yeah, I think the episode that I was out, you guys mentioned the disco episode where Tilly was running around with the other cadets, part of the command training program, and she had a slightly different shirt that says disco, but it has the CTP command training program logo on it, and it's gold instead of silver or white. I think the disco was.
It's gold. Yeah. Yep.
And it's available for purchase on the store for, what is this, $26.99 US.
Yeah, surprisingly, I was going to put that link in the show because that's where I found out what the shirt was called, because I did go over there immediately after I saw it and see if they would have it in their swag, because of course they were selling the disco shirts from last year, right, as well. At one point in time, they were selling the women's shirt for like $5 at one store. So I guess they were that popular. Overstocked. Yeah, cool. I don't have anything on my phone watch list this week. I guess I could say I've been watching The Man in the High Castle.
Oh, how's that?
Have you not watched it?
No, it's been on my to-do list for a while. We talked about it in I think maybe last episode. The Amazon Prime stuff is always on my I'll get to that list, but I never think to just like fire it up and run, because the Marvelous Miss Maisel, Man in the High Castle, and American Gods have all been on my I should watch that list.
It's interesting. It's an interesting. I'm on the 10th episode of season 1, and so it's like it's a future world, or a world where Germany and Japan won the war.
Yep.
So America is now occupied by Japan, and so it takes place in San Francisco, and so that's occupied by Japan. And the Germans are all dressed as in Nazi insignia, and the kids are all in the Hitler Youth and all that kind of stuff. And the Japanese are particularly nasty, and of course there's Japanese gangs as well in the plot as well. And it's about these people who are these Americans who are trying to figure out they're trying to unravel a mystery, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And there's sort of a neutral zone that they meet up with each other, and there's all kinds of different people playing different roles. Where some people are, there's a Nazi person who's pretending to be just a regular American Joe, but he's not really. There's one of the stars of the show is a Nazi commander, but it's all German. I had to look up the names to translate what they are. Like there's like the Führer, there's the Oberführer, and there's Ober something Führer, which is like senior leader I guess is Führer, and then senior leader, and then there's like over senior leader kind of thing in typical German fashion. Of course, there's times when they're speaking Japanese with English subtitles, and then they switch to, when it's just two of them in the room, they switch to English, which is easier to follow. All the Germans who speak to each other in German are speaking German with English subtitles. So you'll find that interesting, John, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Because it's funny because what they say on the screen is not what they say in the translation exactly.
No, I love playing that game. It is handy speaking another language sometimes to see what they're actually saying.
So I've gotten to the 10th episode, and I kind of have a theory about what the subplot of the story is, because now there's been a reveal in the 9th episode, and you're kind of going, wait, that doesn't make sense with what's going on here. So there's a kind of I have suspicions about where the what the story is. We haven't 10 episodes in, we haven't spoilers, we haven't hit the man in the High Castle yet, but I have a theory about who that is too, but we'll have to wait till season 2, I guess, to see who that is. But I think it was on 3 seasons. I think there's a 4th season coming out, so I don't know if I'm seeing it.
Fourth and final season was announced by Amazon.
Have you seen any of it? Or I know Mark on More Than Just Code speaks highly of this show.
I've only seen maybe 5 or 6 episodes of the first season. So that'll have to be one to loop back around, especially since there's an end in sight. If they're going to do only 4 seasons, it's like, all right, like you don't have to feel like, all right, is this going to be like Naruto, where there's like a million episodes and it's like a 20-year sort of saga?
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get to like a Mr. Robot kind of thing. Like Mr. Robot should have ended after 1 season, because the reveal in that one was so cool. But now they have to wrap it up, and and the other seasons kind of dragged on now that the vehicle behind one of the main characters, right? So but if you haven't watched Mr. Robot, go watch that. That's my other thing on the watch list. Yeah, and I say power through, because I agree with Tim that if you wrap it up as a mini series, essentially just a 1-season series, maybe it hits greatness. I was kind of down on season 2, but I do believe that season 3 completely changes my opinion of season 2 and redeems it. Okay. Yeah. Point taken still that it probably fits better as a singular season, but I can see some hope for season 4 of like, oh, okay, I can see where they might be able to wrap it all up. Yeah, there's another movie which I can't mention because it'll give away the twist in Mr. Robot that was a single movie, and it was great that way, right?
There is a movie that is a great comparison, but maybe we'll talk about that once the final season's done and people have hit the expectation that they've seen it by now.
Yeah. In the end, Mr. Robot, grabs the microphone and starts jumping across the stage and singing. Sings his way to an Academy Award. So what do you think about the Oscars? That's next. This is coming up. So by the time this hits the streets, Sunday will be the Oscars coming up. What do you think about Black Panther's chances? I don't think they have a chance in hell. And Bohemian Rhapsody, I'm actually surprised at how many awards they've won already. But is that because it's the demographic who are making the voting that are Queen fans, and they're going to see this one through? Because A Star Is Born, which is supposed to be the big hero piece for what's her name, Lady Gaga, it isn't happening. Although I hear Lady Gaga is going to be singing with Bradley Cooper live on the show on Sunday. So
and Queen's supposed to be there too. I heard that.
Yeah,
this week,
they're opening
right?
the show with Adam Lambert. Yeah. I wonder what song they'll sing.
It's hard to imagine. I don't know. I was thinking that. I was thinking, are they going to do Bohemian Rhapsody? That's like still a 7-minute song.
Well, they kind of sort of have to, because isn't that the song from the movie that, like, don't they have a song for every movie or whatever? I heard they dropped a couple of awards too, right?
No, they didn't drop the awards. They were going to not broadcast them, but apparently they backed off that. They were going to not show 4 of them because of time, but they apparently have backed off and said they're going to actually show them.
Okay. Like costuming and cinematography or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think there was 4 of them. They said they were going to just show them during the commercial breaks because of trying to keep things moving along and keeping it tight or whatever. I think just cutting out, by not having a host and cutting out some of the ridiculous banter, I think that'll keep it, some of the little bits they do and stuff, that cuts like half hour off the show right there. So,
well, they're going to have to have some sort of MC or whatever, right?
No, apparently it's basically just, it's going to be like an introductory voice. It says, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, blah, blah, blah.
MC,
like but that's it. It's just going to be like, then 1 or 2 people come out at a time and they sort of chit chat, make a little joke, and then they do the category, and hopefully that keeps it moving. So
I don't know. I kind of miss Billy Crystal.
Yeah, there's been some good ones and there's been some bad ones. I get why the backlash against Kevin Hart. I mean, some of the comments were not great from his previous routines and such, but it is a weird thing. I can't remember this ever happening in the time that I've been watching the Oscars. So it'll be interesting to see if it makes it better or worse or indifferent. But
well, it's funny. I mean, like the whole thing with the Oscars in the last couple of years is all this politically incorrect or politically correct, correction of all stuff that we've known has been going on forever.
Yeah.
That's the sad part about it.
Well, so once again, why you go back and start deleting your old tweets. So, what are your predictions for Best Picture? Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Roma, Green Book, Star is Born, or Vice?
See, I kind of tend to. I haven't seen Roma, but I that may be. But the other one, I kind of would like to see maybe The Favorite get it. I haven't seen The Favorite, but I'm interested in watching that one.
Yeah, I'd be putting my money on Roma because it's already won awards for like Golden Globes and People's Choice and a whole bunch of other things.
But the Oscars is a weird thing. A pair of teeth could actually win the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we get into the different categories too. Best Actor, obviously, Rami Malek, as we talk about for playing Bohemian Rhapsody, is nominated for Best Actor.
I know, but then so is Chaney, who
Christian Bale. Yep, Christian Bale,
who was like amazing. Like I've only seen the trailer, but I had no idea that was Christian Bale.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that category plays out. Those seem to be the two sort of favorites, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Who else is in leading actor?
So it's Christian Bale for Vice, Bradley Cooper for A Star is Born, Willem Dafoe for At Eternity's Gate, Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody, and Viggo Mortensen for Green Book.
Right. It could be. Well, I haven't seen the Van Gogh movie, but it could be that one too, right?
Yeah, that's gotten a lot of.
He's been passed over a few times, right?
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting one. And Best Actress is another weird one. Best Actress. So this is the category. So Yalitza Aparicio for Roma. She's the star of Roma, obviously. Glenn Close for The Wife. Olivia Colman for The Favorite. Lady Gaga for A Star is Born, and Melissa McCarthy for Can You Ever Forgive Me? It's a very eclectic and very different mix of actresses.
Yeah. Well, I think Glenn Close is probably a right-in for that one. I mean, like she won the Golden Globe, and I think she's won a couple of other things too, right, for that portrayal?
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Usually somewhere in there, Oscar voters will sort of kowtow to the public will. The question is, where does that fall this year? Is it Bradley Cooper for A Star is Born? Is it Lady Gaga for A Star is Born? Is it, where is that sort of throw a bone at the popular film vote?
You think they do that? I don't know.
Often it seems to be. Sometimes it only happens at the sort of best supporting level. They'll sort of throw in one of those, people like this one, or that actor has earned it, I think is another sentiment that sort of comes up. I think for best supporting actor, he's already won an Oscar, obviously, but Sam Rockwell playing George W. for Vice as well. What a bang-on performance that looks like. So, interesting. And again, there's some good ones in here too. Best director is an interesting category. Alfonso Cuarón, of course, who's won previously for Roma. Yorgos Lanthimos for The Favorite. Spike Lee for Black Klansman. Adam McKay for Vice, and Pavel Pawlowski for Cold War. Spike Lee never been nominated before. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see if he wins that.
I honestly can't imagine it's not Alfonso Cuarón for Roma, just based on everything that I know about the way the Oscars work. But it'll it'll be interesting. I could not believe it when I heard that was the first time that Spike Lee had been nominated.
Yeah, no way. Surprising.
I mean, it's staggering. I mean, I've seen BlacKkKlansman, and I've seen probably a half a dozen at least of his previous movies. BlacKkKlansman is a really good movie, but it's not his best movie. You know, how do you not get nominated for Do the Right Thing or Malcolm X or, you know, like there's so many other great movies. It's staggering that this is the first time he's ever been nominated for Best Director.
So I mean, sometimes they do that sort of.
It's the make good Oscar.
Won it before, yeah. Like when what's his name that did Lord of the Rings?
Oh, Peter Jackson. Yeah,
Peter Jackson. He got it for the third movie, right? So
yeah, which is not the best of the movies,
right?
Yeah, and again, Leo DiCaprio won for The Revenant, and The Revenant is not the best movie that he's made over the last 15 years.
He won that as a director or an actor?
No, that was his Best Actor. He'd been nominated for 5 previous Oscars for Best Actor, but he's better in Wolf of Wall Street. He's better in The Aviator. He's better in so many other roles that he didn't win for.
Yeah.
But then he wins for The Revenant because they were like, okay, it's your turn.
Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, it should be an interesting event because it doesn't seem like, I mean, I've only seen 4 or 5 of the movies that are nominated as far as the top ones here, so it'll be interesting to sort of see how they play out. I'm hoping they'll all sort of start showing up on the movie networks or Netflix so I can catch up on them. But
sure, yeah.
What I'm most curious about is the Best Animated Feature because I have seen several of these movies and I really enjoyed them. So Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Mirai, which is a Japanese one.
I couldn't get into Isle of Dogs. I don't know, maybe I was watching on a plane or something, but I couldn't just get into it.
It's too much of an Anderson film? Is that it's too Anderson? Because it's got a fantastic Mr. Fox feel to it.
It does.
I love his work, but still.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I thought it was good. Certainly not his best. I'm not as big a fan of his animated pictures as I am of his actual films, or live action films, I should say. But I did think that was a good movie, and I mean, the attention to detail, the way he composes shots, the way that it all comes together is still he's such just a beautiful filmmaker. His films are so gorgeous to look at. And to see that done at that detail with stop motion animation it's breathtaking.
Well, maybe it was a 10-inch screen on the airplane that was the problem, right?
Come over to my place and watch it on the 4K on the big screen here. It's very nice. My favorite of those by far was the Spider-Man movie. I think that is the most original.
Oh, is that in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is nominated?
Nominated for Best Animated Picture, and honestly, while the other ones I think are good, and I can't say I've seen Mirai, but it was one of the most imaginatively done animated pictures I've seen in years. It was not like Incredibles was great, but it looked the same. It didn't take me anywhere different. Whereas the animation style, the effects, everything for Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse was so different and so dynamic. I think it was just the best picture in that, hands down.
What do you think, Jaime, of all this stuff?
I have not seen Into the Spider-Verse, so I can't give it a fair rating, but just given the buzz around it, it does seem like it's probably a shoo-in. I mean, there's no slouch in this category. I think Mirai is probably the one I'm the least familiar with. I think it'll be Into the Spider-Verse, and I think it'll be good that the category isn't, and Pixar released a film gets the Oscar, I mean, no ding on Pixar, but it is kind of nice to see that there are other studios who are producing stuff that can truly outmatch something that they might put out in any given year.
Right. Cool. All right, well, I think we better wrap it up. So, hey, Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you on the interwebs, where would they look?
I'm on Twitter as @DevWithAHair.
All right, and Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram as @JPKNews.
All right, and I am Tim Mitra, TIMMITRA, on most of the socials. But Twitter is the best place to get a hold of me. And so until next week, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
Bye.
Take off, eh?
Yeah, good on you.
If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter @Spockcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpockcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us out on our website at spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
I guess the last parting question. I apologize if I brought it up and I just forgot the answer. Have either of you two seen The Masked Singer?
No. Oh, I've heard about it.
I saw a clip from it earlier today because Weird Al.
It's different people, though, right?
Weird Al was on it, I guess, last night or something.
Was he the singer or the judge?
The singer.
Oh, really? Oh, well. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but they have different singers every time, Jaime?
They started out with like 8 to 10. I forget how many they were. They're coming up on the finale pretty soon here, I think. And each week, so they had them all sing in 2 promo sort of episodes, and then whoever the loser is gets revealed. They have to reveal who they are, and through the show they have segments where they give a little okay, here's some teasing hints about who I could be, and then the judges have to try to figure it out just for fun, and then you can try to figure it out from the way they sound or additional hints that they drop as they go through each round.
Do they become a loser if the judge can figure out who they are?
No, it's based on I think the audience voting, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. So was one of them Donny Osmond and stuff like that, or
there's not what I've seen revealed so far, but there have been different kinds of celebrities.
Okay,
people who are actors, people who are athletes, people who
not
are
necessarily professional
legit singers. It varies, and it's I've figured out 3 only so far. So my record's not so good because it was 10, I think. Some of these just have me completely stumped, and listening to the judges is entertaining because sometimes they have really good thoughts and sometimes they just have completely dumb thoughts about who it could be. So it's probably more fun to watch with somebody else who might be into it. So all right, who do you think it is? No, that's crazy. I think it's this other person.
Yeah. So what channel is it on, or what TV show is it on? Or?
I want to say it's Fox. I'd have to look it up.
On regular TV.
I use YouTube TV, so I don't even really know or care what channels things come out on. So I apologize, but I believe it is a Fox property. Huh. I have to double check.
Interesting.
It may not be a Fox. It might be an NBC property. But set your PVRs, and you can join the fun. And the costumes are really great. I'm impressed with how much money they spent, as opposed to the Korean version, which apparently this is based on. Which kudos to the art department because they're really creative with what they do. But there's nowhere near the amount of money. It's construction paper and foam, as opposed to the American one. They clearly got people who know how to create costumes.
Yeah, they look like they're wearing mascot costumes. They're really quite ornate.
Yeah. As opposed to the Korean one where it's you can see their body and they've got their face covered with a foam core sort of mask. And sometimes the masks are really, okay, it's pretty basic. It's, this one's a grasshopper, this one's an ant. Okay. And then sometimes it's what the hell is that person a dishwasher? I mean, that's a crazy mask. So it's got that aspect to it on the Korean version, but clearly the budget is way higher on the American version. Cool. So I'll leave you guys to that. Let you turn to pumpkins, all that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm reading the Wikipedia notes on Harry Nilsson. Yeah. No, he was quite prolific, surprisingly.
Hey, watch Russian Doll. You won't get that song out of your head.
Yeah. Well, I've been listening to that song my whole life. So there you go. For those of you who, I guess, just saw it for the first time via Russian Doll.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Ciao.
All right. Next week, guys.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.